Hello, this is Jamie Mitchell, and we are back for another episode of the Libertarian Censored podcast, going over all the posts on the Libertarian Censored subreddit. Let's get right into it. So first we have, Trump team says train wreck press conference is a sign of discipline from NewRepublic.com by Donald Key. And I didn't comment on that one, but yeah, this is just another kind of orange man bad post to make up the backbone of Reddit at this point. I don't really like Donald Trump, and I'm not going to vote for Donald Trump. But that they don't hold Donald Trump to the same standard they hold Kamala Harris or whoever the Democratic nominee would be is, and that just goes to show you how it's double standards. They hold their candidate to one standard, but any opposing candidate will be held to another standard, and that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have the 5 most anti-libertarian TV shows ever from Reason TV on YouTube, and I posted that, and that was their list of the 5 most anti-libertarian TV shows ever from 10 years ago, and I also said they also have a video for the best ones, and I also posted my thoughts. The Newsroom, preachy and annoying, but thankfully much more short-lived and less influential than Sorkin's other show in The West Wing, and there was they said 24. I said The West Wing, but for neocons to jack off to instead of liberals. Captain Planet. And I said Ted Turner, the leftist version of Rupert Murdoch, deserves a lot more shit than he gets. This annoying and preachy environmentalist cartoon was pretty much the equivalent to the Daily Wire cartoons of today. The NFL, probably the most libertarian one on this list. I do agree it's politically and morally bankrupt, but at least everyone is consenting. And then they had Star Trek, the original series. I said was never really into Star Trek, have always more of a Star Wars guy, obligatory fuck Disney, but from what I've heard, it definitely sounds like it's from the overly idealistic liberal perspective. Also, they have the video and article format as well, and I linked to that. And yeah, we definitely live in a very unlibertarian culture, I would say, as well. A lot of TV shows are that libertarian anymore, especially over the past 10 years with, all the media pretty much circle-jerking orange man bad constantly. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have Texas school bans all black clothing, cites mental health concerns from ktool.com by Ragnar OKXG. And they added, but I thought Republicans were for freedom. And I would agree that, ultimately, I think kids should be able to wear whatever they want to school. I think, but at the same time, I do think schools should be able to set a dress code if they feel like it. I feel like if a kid just goes to school naked, that I don't think a lot of people would like that, and that's important to remember as well. So I do think kids should have as much leeway as they want to when it comes to the dress code. With that being said, if the schools do want to implement a dress code, I think they are well within their means to do so. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have Utah outlaws books by Judy Bloom and Sarah J. Maas, and first statewide ban from TheGuardian.com by C.H. Verlux, and that's crosswords from the News of the Stupid subreddit. And yeah, it's not really outlawing them, it's just removing them from public school libraries because they don't think they're appropriate for the kids. But with that being said, I personally think, we should... I personally do kind of see both sides here. I think we should expose kids to as many different perspectives as possible. With that being said, if people do find things that are maybe considered inappropriate for kids in their public school library, I think they have every right to challenge it and take it out. And that's not really making it illegal if you can still own it and pass it around outside of school. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have Donald Trump wants a say in setting interest rates from finance.yahoo.com by Baton13. And I didn't comment on that one, but yeah, I personally don't really care for politicians controlling the economy, especially with the Federal Reserve doing that, already as well. And that's my fault on that issue. I don't really want Donald Trump setting my interest rates, but that being said, I don't really want Kamala Harris or Joe Biden setting my interest rates either. And that's my thoughts on that issue. I also don't want the Federal Reserve setting them either, for that matter. Then we have This Is Why the VP Doesn't Matter. Diet Mountain Dew is terrible from Chad Muffin. It's a YouTube video from Cheddar. Vance and Walls unite over Diet Mountain Dew. So yeah, apparently they both love Diet Mountain Dew, and yeah, it just goes to show you that you can find some people to agree on any subject sometimes. even if they are political enemies. And with that being said, ultimately, they have a right to love Diet Mountain Dew. I'm not really into diet soda too much. But, yeah, ultimately, drink whatever soda you want to, and that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have Lawrence O'Donnell of MSNBC doing an amazing job in reference to the American news media live and his colleagues on turning back the clock to 2016 covering Trump. Lies are not the answer. Please crush them on social media. And that's from Donald Key across from the Interesting as Fuck subreddit. And I said in response, got to break out my liberalese translators for this one. What I would like is for my version of the truth to be the only legal speech. All other speech should be criminalized. That's why I translated it as, that sounds like MSNBC, alright. And that's my thoughts on that issue. They're constantly pushing for censorship of all political opposition, and I don't think that's the libertarian way. Then we have Governor Gavin Newsom begins stealing his constituents' possessions as the cops he empowered to violate their rights aren't doing it fast enough, from Frosty Slowman. That's a Twitter post from Ilex Michelson. Governor Newsom is in Mission Hill cleaning up a homeless encampment near the freeway. He's frustrated LA County leaders aren't doing more to remove encampments. I talk about that in the presidential race coming up on Fox LA at 6 p.m. and the issue is show. And I didn't call him that one, but yeah, it just goes to show you that the government ultimately has the force to do whatever it wants with you. I don't really care for homeless encampments, but as long as they're keeping to themselves, I think they have every right to be there. And that's my thoughts on that issue. And yeah, I definitely do think Governor Newsom overstepped his bounds here. Then we have Governor Jared Polis. I agree with Representative Thomas Massie. It's time to end the draft. Friends from Far and Chimney, and that's Jared Polis on Twitter quoting Thomas Massie. Some people want to include women in the military draft. Some people want to only include men. I propose a compromise. Eliminate the SSS Selective Service System department altogether. And I would agree with that. I think the draft is just modern day slavery, and people shouldn't be forced to fight if they don't want to, and that's what the draft is. It's forcing people to fight if the U.S. government needs them, and I don't think that's very libertarian. The libertarian perspective is if all voluntary service, even if the U.S. gets into a world war, I still should be in all voluntary service. The U.S. wasn't forced to escalate tensions with Russia, Iran, or China, and that's my position on that issue. It should all be voluntary. If they don't have enough troops, that's their problem, not our problem. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have my yearly check-in, how y'all doing, from your state officer, and they said that's a self-post they made, and they said some of the older users recognize me. I don't use Reddit much anymore. I'm still active in libertarian politics in my own way, but I always cared about you guys, so I wanted to see how you guys were doing. And I didn't respond to that one because they had me blocked, but yeah, I'm doing pretty good. Thanks for asking. Then we have Think Before You Post from gov.uk, and that's the official UK government account on Twitter, and they quote tweeted themselves, and I posted that, and they quote tweeted in the Crown Prosecution Service, Think Before You Post, content that incites violence or hatred is just harmful, it can be illegal. The CPS takes online violations seriously and will prosecute when the legal test is met. Remind them close to you to share responsibility or face the consequences. And I said in response, scary stuff. Thank goodness the U.S. got its independence. I think this stuff like this is downright Orwellian, I would say. And I think it might just be only a matter of time before it comes to the U.S., but hopefully we should resist as long as possible, like they're doing in the U.K. currently. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have customers didn't stop spending, companies stopped serving, from CNN Business by Ninja Lover. And yeah, I didn't comment on that one since they have me blocked, but yeah, I definitely do think the government plays a big part in that. Companies can't serve anymore due to all the burdensome regulations, and that's why customers are having trouble spending on the company since they can't serve as much anymore. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have First Amendment under assault as cello playing climate activist arrested in public park during New York City bank protests as crackdown escalates, from U.S. News from TheGuardian.com by Maddie O'Clock. And yeah, I definitely would agree that that's not good, and we should be supporting free speech and free expression, especially since, when you don't, you become somewhere like the UK, where it cracks down on any dissent, anything it views as dissent, it looks like. And that's my thought on that issue. Then we have BU researchers are pushing for changes to international treaties to better protect the planet after finding fossil fuel companies are increasingly suing countries for billions over climate policies, from BU.edu, and that's a link to a study from from Boston University, The Brink, how high-level lawsuits are disrupting climate change policies. BE researchers are pushing for changes in international treaties to better protect the planet, are finding philosophical companies are increasing suing countries for billions over climate policies. And yeah, ultimately it comes down to who has the force and social and economic capital to do what. And I personally don't care for the fossil fuel companies, but I don't care for the climate alarmists who want to force their agenda on everyone as well. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have the other black politician who says he was with Trump in the near fatal chopper crash from Politico.com by CH4Lux, and that's a cross post from the r/moderate politics subreddit. And I said in response, Orange Reddit, Orange Man Bad, call me La Good, repeat ad nauseum. And that's pretty much all Reddit is. I don't really care for Donald Trump, but it's pretty much all Donald Trump bad, Kamala good at this point, or I called her Kamala since she's a commie. Donald Trump's probably a communist as well, I would say, but yeah, it just goes to show you that it's the same. It's been the same sort of work for the past decade, and I think people are getting tired of it, and that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have progressives and stretching definition of what constitutes reasonable, and that was a self-post that I made, and I said, believe it or not, I used to be quite supportive of the whole Me Too movement. It's why my third highest upvoted post of all time is the allegations thread for the gaming community that I was part of at the time. Anyway, while I was attending my autism support group today, I heard the story of a guy who got a strike from his company's HR department because he walked by a female co-worker's cubicle to get a cup of coffee, and she reported him for pacing by her cubicle. It feels like this is all a good gauge for where they're left as a whole. To start something that sounds reasonable, like saying we need to stop sexual harassers like Harvey Weinstein, but over time they will keep pushing so that anything that can be seen as an offense is punishable, even if there was no intent to harm whatsoever. Here's another good example from Time Magazine special edition on Pokemon I was reading earlier today. And I quoted it, newest generation of Pokemon 2022, Scarlet and Violet, removed gendered locks on in-game clothing items, allowing all avatars to don the same clothing and hair, but there are plenty of things the game developers could have done better. Though the initial character creation doesn't force choice between male and female, a character introduced early in the game insists on finding your character as master or miss for the entirety of the game, making the fact that players can customize themselves as non-binary irrelevant. And then I added, it's another instance of moving the goalpost after being given what they wanted. It's why I increasingly view it as pointless to appease the left at all anymore. They will always just want more. It reminds me very much of Maximilian Robespierre from the French Revolution. He thought what he was doing was reasonable by overthrowing the monarchy and putting them in the guillotines, but then before he knew it, he was the one being executed by it. And that's my thoughts on that issue. The left is always going to mark itself as they're going to say, we need to be nice to people and all that reasonable stuff, but increasingly they'll keep pushing and moving the goalpost, and we're going down a slippery slope, so to say, into irreasonable positions, and they'll keep treating them as though they're reasonable, and that's how they can control the narrative. And eventually you have to say, no, if you think that's a good idea, that's on you, but I'm saying no, and that's my position on the issue. And if you want to bully me over that, that's fine. Bully me as much as you want, but you're not going to convince me. You're not going to force me to obey you and your whatever it is that you're pushing. And that's my thoughts on that issue. And let's see if there's anything new. Looks like that's it. So we're going to wrap it up there. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.